necessarily am looking for like a sensitive guy, artistic, and want to collaborate with me on art and like writing, and likes being a little bit of an artsy freak. So if there's anyone out there like that,
you would have made a fantastic lesbian, I think.
I used to be.
Queer Americans are rewriting the rules of gender and sexuality.
I'm still on estrogen. I just don't identify as a woman or a man.
And while Pride may be over, we're still in the midst of a culture war over those rules.
I signed an order making it the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female.
At the New York City Pride Parade, my friend Benjamin Ryan and I set out to find people at the center of this culture war so we could ask them, well, all the stuff we wanted to know.
What does gender dysphoria feel like for you?
It feels like I am in a body that isn't my own. I'm getting gender affirming care in a couple weeks. I'm getting top surgery done for myself because personally, I find that for myself, I find no attachment with my chest. I've been objectified a number of times because of my boobs. I want to rip them off most of the days.
Do you remember when you started feeling that way, of wanting to rip them off?
When I first started developing my boobs in late high school, I learned gender dysphoria, gender identity, like.
Do you remember where you learned that?
The internet, actually. I did a lot of research on LGBTQ plus identities, on which ones fit me the most, and non-binary has felt the most at home in myself, and I will never take it back in my life.
At what age did you start really considering your gender identity?
At 17. I was just trying to figure out if I like girls, if I like boys, or what I felt as myself. So that's when I was like, okay, I'm trans man.
Did you have other friends who identified as trans?
Yeah, I have a bunch of friends who identify as trans. Overall, I spoke to my trans men friends and stuff like that, and that's how I was like, okay, yeah, this makes sense for me.
Yeah. Are you on T?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. When did you go on T?
Today makes a year and 6 months.
Oh. What was the process like of getting it?
Process was easy. I went through Planned Parenthood.
Was it just like one visit? Like, did you have to go through a whole assessment process?
Nope.
What did they do?
One visit, and then I started doing therapy.
What was the therapy process like? How long was it?
Honestly, I only saw her once. I told her that I was trans, and she was like, that's fine.
So you went, your initial appointment, met with a therapist, maybe a social worker, and then they cleared you for T?
Yep.
Cool. How old were you when you started thinking that you might be trans?
I start my transition on my 13 years old.
13 years old?
Yeah, and I do my section on my 21.
Yeah.
So I'm a transsexual.
How did you know?
I'm a woman.
You're a woman.
I'm a woman.
Yeah.
I feel now my mind and my body together.
Yeah.
Everything the same. I feel complete.
For a while, actually, I thought maybe I was a trans woman, but like, ultimately, the whole idea of gender is, it feels like a cage.
Have you ever seen a doctor who's like, well, if you're not a woman, I'm not getting you estrogen, or if you don't think you're a woman, I'm not getting you estrogen?
No, every doctor I've ever spoken with has always been really cool and kind of agree with my viewpoint. You should be who you are. I caused a lot of harm and a lot of pain when I wasn't transitioning.
Yeah.
It helped my mental health. I came off of antidepressants. I no longer have anxiety.
How's it affected your dating life?
A lot better, actually. Yeah.
Has it been like a deal breaker for anyone who you've liked?
Yeah, my ex-wife.
I'm bi, but I mostly like guys. I like guys who are gay, usually.
I would imagine it would be hard to date gay guys as yourself.
I mean, a lot of gay guys like trans guys, but a lot of them are really weird about it. Really much just care about dick, and like they don't really care about the personality of the person, like they just want sex. Before I came out as trans, I just thought of myself as like a failed girl, but it was mostly because I was autistic. Like I didn't understand how to be a girl and like what that even meant, because gender is a social thing.
There seems to be a big kind of crossover between autistic people and non-binary or trans people. Is that something you've noticed, and why do you think that might be?
A lot of autistic people are kind of already isolated from like social norms and thus gender norms, because they just don't understand them and they don't feel like they can naturally like mimic them in a way that would like other people would believe. That's why like information is so important, because I guess I just didn't know it was possible. It's like, oh, I just feel more like a guy. Oh well. But then at some point I was like, oh wow, you can actually just be a guy. Oh cool, I'm gonna do that.
With small talk out of the way, it was time to talk politics.
It's kind of a historic time for the LGBT community. And yes, 10 years since Obergefell.
10 years after the legalization of gay marriage, the LGBT movement is on defense, with recent Supreme Court rulings allowing parents to opt their kids out of queer curricula and upholding bans on youth gender medicine.
Yeah, any feelings about the Supreme Court decisions, Skrmetti, for instance?
I don't even know who you're talking about.
There are people who argue that people, maybe starting puberty blockers as young as 9 and transitioning to hormones at say 12 years old or something, that's not old enough. What do you think about that argument?
I think you know who you are from when you first start questioning it.
Another concern that people have is what transitioning medically would do to children's fertility. Is that a concern that you would have in particular?
That's a good question. For me personally, I think I would freeze off my eggs and stuff like that. But everybody's different, not a lot of people want to have kids, so I guess it really is just yourself and your journey.
There's negative effects with anything. Say like you're smoking cigarettes or you decide to drink. There's always an effect inside your body.
Is it really non-reversible?
Yeah, that if you give kids a female testosterone, for instance, that can make them infertile.
I don't know. I think that there's always multiple options. I think there is adoption, there is surrogacy. They can deal with the consequences of that later in their lives if they choose to. I just think in general, it's not really people's place to police people's bodies.
I think we're focusing on the wrong thing. I feel like we're always focusing on the little it's non-reversible or it's damaging to the kids. All these talking points just take away from the youth and how to help them.
Do you wish that you had transitioned as a minor when you were 13? You gone on puberty blockers and hormones?
I'm very happy with my transition.
What do you have to say to people who argue that children should not transition?
For real, they have to waiting a little bit for the child grow up a little bit. When they got 14 or 16, I think it's much better for the child understand what they want.
Let me tell you what puberty does to your mind. I had to watch myself slowly transform into something that I hated. That does damage to children. That turns them into hateful, mean, aggressive, harmful adults.
But if there's evidence that these kind of interventions can make kids, when they're grown-ups, sexually dysfunctional, for instance, or unable to achieve orgasm, or...
I would say that I would take that risk.
The big question is, why change the body to alleviate the suffering of the mind?
Why put a prosthetic on a amputee? If a woman isn't satisfied with her chest size, why have implants? Right. It helps.
Honestly, don't feel like I fit in really any community, honestly, the queer community, the gay community, definitely not the straight community or lesbian community. I just feel like I'm kind of a drifter.
Do you ever think maybe I should try something else or no?
No, because I feel like myself, I feel like for the first time in my life, last 2 years, I've basically been my true self. I think it's just about finding people who are similar to you and can be on your level and be freaks with you.